Namaskar, welcome to RCI's Navshikhar channel. Today on this channel we are telecasting our one part of our series of teleconferences on topics related to your curriculum, and we have with us Dr. Neerja Sharma, who is the reader in the Department of Human Development and Childhood Studies of the Lady Irwin College with us in our studios. She will be covering the topic of child growth and development, principles of development, characteristics, etc. And we are looking forward to interacting with her. Before I hand you all over to Dr. Neerja Sharma, I'd just like to share with you that Dr. Sharma is leading a faculty at Lady Irwin College, which has a reputation of being a leader in the field of women's higher education for women. It just turned 75 recently, this college, and was first set up, was one of the first colleges set up before independence for higher education of women. Dr. Sharma herself is a master's in child development and has done her PhD on the identity of the adolescent girl, and has been teaching for 35 years, which is really rich experience that we hope to tap onto today. She teaches a course on children with special needs at the Lady Irwin College, and has also published, written and published various number of books and written many papers that have been read at various forums. An interesting thing about the department, their department in the Lady Irwin College, is that it runs a nursery school which was established about 27 years ago, and Dr. Sharma informs us that it was in fact an inclusive school from the beginning. So it really was way ahead of the times in a way, and this school functions as the laboratory for their training programs. Dr. Neerja Sharma, can I hand it over to you now, and will you share with us?
Thank you so much, KPK ji, and namaskar to all of you on this very good afternoon. It's very pleasant in Delhi. I don't know how it is in your areas. And we're going to have a discussion on how a child grows. Before I begin, I'd like to make one correction. The nursery school that we have, KPK ji, is 52 years old.
Oh.
But we started taking children with disability 27 years ago.
I see.
So, and we started the preschool at the time when very few people in the city of Delhi also had preschool, and 27 years ago people had never dreamt of working with a child with Down syndrome, with deafness, with blindness, but we started working because we just thought a child is a child first and not a child with disability first.
So true. Yes.
So, I'm going to cover some very important areas which, as you can see, are part of your curriculum, and let me make you familiar with the different topics, and I'm going to intersperse this talk with some very lovely pictures of children. Each picture is not necessarily matching the lecture in that area, but I'm sure you will enjoy looking at these pictures because children are doing something, playing, laughing, etc. See, as you can see in this picture, the children are with their teacher, and they've just made a line, and they're just wanting to go out and play. And I think that's, we all know that children like to do that. And let me tell you, these pictures that you will see throughout the presentation, these have, I did not take these photographs, these have been adapted, picked up from calendars of different years prepared by an NGO, a voluntary organization in Dehradun, and it is called Latika Roy Foundation, and they run several programs for children with and without disability. So, and they are very beautiful pictures as we go along. The first picture, as you can see, the child is enjoying playing with these blocks. We can always come back to this picture. And this one, where these two boys are actually playing with toys, and if you notice, the toys have a teacup and a saucer and a kitchen things, and most parents don't like their boys to play with kitchen things, but here nobody is stopping them. I would like to, I think, refer you to the, I think I have to go back to the topics that we are going to cover today. As you can see in your curriculum, we have topics which are like this: growth and development, stages in development in childhood, domains of development, principles of development, heredity environment, developmental tasks, and developmental deviations. I don't think you have to learn these up just now, because I'll take up each one of these topics separately. सबसे पहले हम लेते हैं ग्रोथ और डेवलपमेंट, यानी बच्चों का विकास. We know that children, when a child is born, the child is very small, but the child grows very fast, and especially if you see a baby who's just born and then you see that baby again after 2 months, again after 6 months, and again after 1 year, you realize how big the baby becomes so fast, because mothers and fathers don't feel they're growing that fast, because वो उनको तंग बहुत करते हैं, उनको रात भर जगाते हैं. पर जो हम अन्य लोग होते हैं उनको लगता है कि ये बच्चा तो बहुत जल्दी बड़ा हो रहा है. तो उस बच्चे का विकास समझने के लिए it is important to understand needs and abilities of children who do not have a disability, who we call, sometimes call normal, but I would call them children who are typical, because I feel all children are normal whether or not they have a disability. But children who are typical, children who grow like all other children, if we understand their needs and abilities, it is easier to understand the needs, abilities and levels of children with disability for us. Secondly, this understanding is given to us by the field of, by the discipline of child development, from which I come. As Ketaki ji said, I have done a bachelor's and master's degree in child development, including my PhD in child development. It is not a common subject in most places, and it comes under the field of home science, but we have found it very useful to understand and explain childhood and adulthood to other people. So through this discipline of child development, we understand all aspects of human growth, from change, from a conception. जब बच्चा माँ के पेट में होता है तब से लेकर किशोरावस्था तक, adolescent तक, we understand childhood best through reading about children's development in the field of child development as a discipline. And an important word throughout has been development. Development implies simply, it is not a complicated word, it simply means change in human beings as the time passes. I give you the example of the child is conceived in the mother's womb, the child grows from a single cell to a full baby in the mother's womb. From there, the childbirth takes place and grows to become a bigger child, an adolescent, and an adult. All these changes are aspects of development, and we use the two words growth and development together. They are not different, but what happens is, when we see something changing like height and weight or body size, we tend to call that growth, and when we do not see it happening, we call it development. Otherwise there is no different meaning attached to it. And listeners, I would like to tell you, किसी भी समय आप कोई प्रश्न पूछना चाहें, आप प्रश्न पूछ सकते हैं. ये ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप प्रेजेंटेशन के ख़त्म होने का वेट करें. You can ask me a question even in between the talk if you feel that you haven't understood something, or there's a question arises in your mind from what I have said. I would like to ask
a question here. I mean, I would like to actually make a statement. ये जो आप कह रहे हैं कि development और growth जो है, it's interesting कि आपने point out किया कि ये दोनों एक ही चीज़ हैं, क्योंकि हमारे मन में ये जो preconceived notion है कि growth सिर्फ वो physical aspects को कवर करता है, और development जब हम कहते हैं तो शायद इसके physical aspects के अलावा और भी जो mental cognitive area और
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। वो धारणा इसलिए हो जाती है कि जो ग्रोथ वर्ड है वो आप देख लीजिए, एक जो पौधा भी बढ़ता है तो हम उसको ग्रोथ कह देते हैं क्योंकि वो हमें दिखता है।
हाँ जी।
और डेवलपमेंट वर्ड यूज होता है इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट, उसको जरा ज्यादा भारी भरकम माना जाता है। बट डेवलपमेंट के अंदर ही ग्रोथ भी है, इंक्लूडेड है, तो इसलिए इट इज बेटर नॉट टू सेपरेट द टू। द यूजेज इज सेपरेट बट development is more inclusive, and growth seems like something that we can see, as I said, कि वो बच्चा बड़ा हो रहा है, उसकी ग्रोथ हो रही है।
Clearly
और जब ग्रोथ होती है तो डेवलपमेंट भी हो रही है, और डेवलपमेंट हो रही है तो ग्रोथ भी हो रही है। तो आजकल बहुत से कॉन्सेप्ट्स हो गए हैं जिसको साइकोलॉजिस्ट ने बोला है कि इनको सेपरेट मत कीजिए, इनको इकट्ठा ही रहने दीजिए, लाइक इंक्लूजन।
Okay.
So from this beautiful picture I like to go to the next slide. Maybe I've gone. Okay. अब हम आते हैं, हमारा नेक्स्ट टॉपिक है स्टेजेस इन डेवलपमेंट ड्यूरिंग चाइल्डहुड, यानी कि अवस्थाएं बच्चे की डेवलपमेंट में शुरू से लेके आखिर तक क्या स्टेजेस होती हैं। ये स्टेजेस बच्चे के पैदा होने से पहले से लेके जिस समय को हम कहते हैं प्री नेटल पीरियड, बिफोर बर्थ, अडल्टहुड तक चलती हैं स्टेजेस। और जब जहाँ तक बच्चों का सवाल है, ये स्टेजेस हैं प्री नेटल से लेके अडोलेसेंस यानी किशोरावस्था तक। तो हम उसी समय की बात करेंगे, बच्चे के पैदा होने से लेके बच्चे के किशोरावस्था तक, अडोलेसेंट होने तक, चाहे लड़का हो या लड़की हो। जो प्री नेटल पीरियड है, यदि यानी पैदा होने से पहले का समय, उसे प्री नेटल इसलिए कहते हैं क्योंकि उस समय एक अकेला सिंगल सेल, एक अकेला बिंदु पूरे उस सेल से लेकर पूरे बेबी, पूरे बच्चे की शेप लेता है माँ की कोख में, इन द मदर्स वूम। दैट इज प्री नेटल। और ये समय बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट होता है, मेरे ख्याल से पूरे जीवन में सबसे अधिक इम्पोर्टेंट ये समय होता है। इसीलिए हम माँ के पोषण, न्यूट्रिशन, हेल्थ, इमोशन, इन सब की बहुत चिंता करते हैं, और हमारे देश में बहुत सा पैसा माँओं की देखभाल में खर्चा जाता है। नेक्स्ट स्टेज आती है इन्फेंसी, यानी छोटा बालक। पैदा होने से लेकर 2 वर्ष की आयु को इन्फेंसी कहा जाता है, और बच्चे को इन्फेंट कहा जाता है। इस समय बच्चा बैठना, चलना, भागना, बोलना, खेलना सीखता है। द चाइल्ड लर्न्स टू सिट, स्टैंड, वॉक, रन, लिसन टू अदर्स, talk herself and play. And let me tell you, this child is very intelligent. Intelligence doesn't come later, it comes from the very beginning in the child. Like this child you see on your screen, it looks very innocent, and he's also very, the way he's looking at you is very intelligent. आगे चलते हैं। इन्फेंसी के बाद स्टेज आती है अर्ली चाइल्डहुड, यानी 2 साल से लेकर 6 साल का समय। इसको हम आमतौर पे प्री स्कूल ईयर्स भी कहते हैं, क्योंकि बच्चे इस समय नर्सरी स्कूल, आंगनबाड़ी, बालवाड़ी ऐसी संस्थाओं में जाना शुरू कर देते हैं। 2 साल की आयु में तो आवश्यक नहीं है, पर 3 साल के बाद अधिकतर जहाँ जहाँ आंगनवाड़ी या नर्सरी स्कूल होते हैं, माँ बाप भी उन्हें भेजना चाहते हैं, और उनको जाना भी चाहिए अगर वो संस्थाएं अच्छी हैं। जो बच्चा है उस समय अपनी थोड़ी बहुत देखभाल कर लेता है, केयर ऑफ द सेल्फ, स्टार्ट्स अटेंडिंग अ प्रोग्राम जो उसको अच्छा लगता है, और सबसे अधिक इस समय की जो खासियत है वो है प्लेज अलॉट. द चाइल्ड लाइक्स टू प्ले एंड ऑल्सो enjoys playing, and other people also like to play with the child a lot क्योंकि अभी पढ़ाई लिखाई शुरू नहीं हुई है. Then the next stage is middle childhood. Middle childhood comes after early childhood, which is 6 years to 11 years. इस समय बच्चा स्कूल जाना शुरू कर देता है. हमारे देश में अधिकतर बच्चे 5 साल की आयु में भी चले जाते हैं, किंतु 6 साल की आयु में जाना भी ठीक है. 6 to 11 years. प्राइमरी कक्षा, पहली क्लास, दूसरी क्लास, तीसरी क्लास, चौथी और पांचवी, एलिमेंट्री स्कूल. और इस समय बच्चा सीखता है पढ़ना, लिखना, मैथमेटिक्स, अरिथमेटिक, गणित. These are the skills that the child learns. Must learn to read, must learn to write, and must learn to do mathematics, because these are 3 academic skills that take you forward in academics in life. उसके अलावा self control is very important. Self regulation, controlling yourself. छोटा बच्चा होता है, भूख लगती है तो रोने लगता है. By this age the child knows, if I am hungry, what do I do? Where do I find the food? Do I ask somebody to give me food? And if I am sitting down in the class and the teacher says you cannot go out without my permission, the child knows that I need to do that. And those children who do not listen and are continuously not able to control their own behavior, we normally try to see, is there anything fundamentally wrong with the child? Does the child need to be corrected? Because the children easily are able to control these things. And we know, if you are a teacher, if you've all been in schools, you know that there are rules that you follow, and that can happen only around 6 years and onwards. We should not expect too much of discipline from children before that, because they cannot handle it. If there are any questions already, I don't mind answering them.
I would like to actually take you back
Yeah.
to what you said about growth and development. There are these phases that you said of stages of development. Is it that the rate of development or rate of growth क्या अलग होती है in different stages? जैसे आपने कहा एक बिंदु से हम पूरा एक मतलब full formed baby जो होता है, the rate of development at that stage,
Yes.
then subsequently at infancy and so on.
Yeah. It's a very good question, because it is important to know that the prenatal period is one of the fastest periods, and that the mother cannot control. The parents cannot decide how fast will the child grow. ये नेचर ने ऑलरेडी डिसाइड किया हुआ है कि एक बिंदु से पूरा बेबी बनने में लगभग 36 हफ्ते लगेंगे, approximately 36 weeks. It can be 35, it can be 40 for some. But this is the fastest rate of growth in the whole lifespan. After that, even in infancy, it is fairly fast. From a child who's totally helpless in the mother's arms and weighs only about 2.5 to 3 kgs, this child is going to be running around. Even that is very fast. Then during preschool years and early childhood years, it slows down a little bit.
I see.
Again, when you reach adolescence, it jumps, and there is a what is called a growth spurt. So these are spurts of growth.
Right.
So it is natural that all children in all countries and all nations and all cultures will follow this
Pattern.
but within one child or another there may be a difference, and we can come to that a little later when we come to principles of development.
Yeah. There was another thing that एक और प्रश्न था मेरा कि आपने कहा भी था कि ये हमें जानना, ये जो ग्रोथ और ये जो अर्ली स्टेजेस ऑफ ग्रोथ जो आप कह रहे हैं, ये जानना इसलिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि जब हम चिल्ड्रन विद डिसेबिलिटीज़ के साथ काम करें तो हम क्या ये माइलस्टोन्स जो हैं ग्रोथ के ये कंपेयर करेंगे कि किस एज में या किस उम्र में बच्चे ने ये अचीव किया है, और अगर नहीं किया है तो वहीं से हम जो मार्क और आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं कि हाई रिस्क है बेबी में या कुछ इस तरफ का.
You know, since we know statistics में बताया जाता है कि हमारे देश में लगभग 5 से 7% बच्चे शायद डिसेबिलिटी ग्रुप में आते हैं, तो अगर 90% से अधिक बच्चे उसमें नहीं आते हैं तो उनके बारे में जानना बहुत ज़रूरी है, ताकि इन 5 या 7% के बारे में हम जान सकें
अच्छा,
और
जी,
थोड़ा
जी,
कंपैरिजन कर
yes,
सकें
very
कि
important.
कहीं हमको वहम है कि इस बच्चे में कुछ है या सचमुच में कुछ है, उसको एस्टैब्लिश करने के लिए उससे पहले कि हम किसी डॉक्टर या पीडियाट्रिशियन या स्पेशलिस्ट के पास जाएं। तो हम आगे चलते हैं। ये भी एक सुंदर सा चित्र है, छोटे बच्चे हैं, प्री स्कूल टू मिडिल चाइल्डहुड ईयर्स। अगली स्टेज जो चाइल्डहुड में आती है, जिसको हम एक्चुअली एडोलेसेंस कहते हैं, किशोरावस्था, 11 साल से 20 साल तक की होती है। पहले हम इसको 18 साल तक बंद करते थे इस आयु को। अब पिछले 10 साल से ये अनुभव हुआ है पूरे साइकोलॉजी फील्ड में कि शायद 20 साल तक चलता रहता है एडोलेसेंस का पीरियड, क्योंकि ये टाइम है ट्रांजिशन फ्रॉम चाइल्डहुड टू अडल्टहुड। बचपन से बड़े होने तक का जो बीच में एक ब्रिज आता है, ये वो समय है। ना वो व्यक्ति बच्चा है और ना वो व्यक्ति अडल्ट है, तो कुछ तो अपने आप को बीच में लटका हुआ महसूस करते हैं। और एक्सपीरियंसेस ही उनके ऐसे होते हैं कि उन्हें लगता है कि ना मैं बच्चा हूँ ना मैं बड़ा हूँ, तो मैं क्या हूँ। तो ऐसा क्यों होता है? क्योंकि शरीर के हार्मोन्स बहुत ज़्यादा तेज़ काम करने लगते हैं। जो बच्चा है वो प्यूबर्टी या परिपक्वता की वजह से बड़ा होने लगता है। हमारे शरीर में हार्मोन्स एक्टिव हो जाते हैं, जिससे उनकी शरीर का हाइट और वेट एकदम से बढ़ता है, बॉडी के शेप में चेंज आती है, लड़कियां लड़कियां लगने लगती हैं, लड़के आदमी लगने लगते हैं, और सेक्सुअल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स आ जाते हैं, जिससे हम क्लियरली जान पाते हैं कि मैं लड़का हूँ या लड़की हूँ, मैं औरत बनूंगी और मैं आदमी बनूंगा। और इसके अलावा फिजिकल फीचर्स के अलावा इसमें सोच में बहुत एक बड़ा जंप आता है। ये बच्चे एब्स्ट्रैक्ट थिंकिंग कर पाते हैं, जो चीज़ वहाँ नहीं है उसके बारे में सोच सकते हैं। इसका जो डिटेल है आपको अगले कुछ हमारे लेक्चर्स में समझाया जाएगा, जो आने वाले आपके स्पीकर्स हैं, तो मैं ज़्यादा इस पर समय नहीं लगाऊंगी। पर एडोलेसेंट अपने आप को थोड़ा सा स्वतंत्र करना चाहते हैं माँ बाप की पकड़ से। दे वांट इंडिपेंडेंस, दे वांट ऑटोनॉमी। सो उससे थोड़ा खिंचखिंचाव हो जाता है माँ बाप और बच्चों में, and they become closer to their friends, which also irritates their families quite a bit.
Yes.
So because they move towards romance, they are attracted to the opposite sex, and it is natural. They have to, they must. If they don't, there's something odd about it. And therefore it is a very interesting stage, interesting for us but maybe not so much for the parents.
Exactly.
इसमें just one adult is interacting with a young adolescent, they are playing together. अब हम तीसरे एरिया पे आते हैं, which is domains of development. ब्रैकेट्स में मैंने लिखा है एरियाज। देखिए, बच्चा तो वही एक जान है, पर उसका स्टडी करने के लिए हम उसको विभाजित करते हैं डिफरेंट एरियाज में, ताकि हम समझ सकें। बट चाइल्ड इज द सेम। सो दीज डोमेन्स और दीज एरियाज आर फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट, आप समझ सकते हैं, हाइट बढ़ना, वेट बढ़ना, बॉडी के प्रोपोर्शंस चेंज होना, दिस इज फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट। अब हमारी जब हेल्थ ख़राब होती है तो हमारी फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट पे उसका असर होता है। देन देर इज मोटर डेवलपमेंट, which is slightly different from physical development, that is fine motor, fingers का यूज, उंगलियों का यूज करना, सुई में जो धागा डालना है।
Madam, I think we are getting a call from Ahmedabad.
Okay.
If it's okay with you, can
Yeah,
we
we'll
take-
handle it.
Yeah. बोलिए।
Hello madam, I am Ram Krishna, speaking from Hyderabad Teacher Training Center. Sir,
अच्छा,
I have one
बोलिए।
question.
Yes,
Is
please.
there any relations between growth and intelligence?
Okay, this is
And
a
next one question is, what is the age of adulthood?
okay. ये है मिस्टर राम कृष्णा हैदराबाद से पूछ रहे हैं, इज देयर एनी रिलेशन बिटवीन ग्रोथ एंड इंटेलिजेंस? दैट्स वन क्वेश्चन. एंड व्हाट इज द एज ऑफ एडल्टहुड? दिस इज द सेकंड क्वेश्चन.
Okay. Let me handle the second one first.
Okay.
Adulthood will begin after 20. Adolescence ends at 20. Therefore, formally adulthood begins, and then
Okay.
it carries on till the end. That is
Okay.
adulthood. because adulthood has its own stages, early, middle and late. And growth and intelligence, will be coming to that as a whole discussion in one of the lectures later. But there is growth of intelligence also, and all children are born intelligent. So intelligence is not something that is sitting inside the brain. Intelligence is use of common sense to understand your environment, and all children will have intelligence, because that's why a child cries. A child cries because something is paining, something is hurting the child. That's also intelligence. In
Okay.
fact, if a child does not cry, we are very concerned.
Yes.
Suppose something is pinching the child, why isn't the child crying? So solving problems from day one is use of intelligence. If the child is wanting the mother and the mother is not there, the child does cries.
Yes.
That's use of intelligence.
जैसे आपने कहा था, आपकी स्लाइड में थी वो, जब इन्फेंसी में वन ऑफ द
Yes.
की फीचर्स ऑफ एन इन्फेंट इज दैट ही और शी इज एन इंटेलिजेंट पर्सन.
Intelligent person.
आपने वो
Yes.
पिक्चर भी दिखाया था
So
बच्चे का.
if a child sees there's something lying on the chair and I want it, the child walks up to it and picks it up. That's using intelligence also. So adapting to the environment is use of intelligence. So all growth is parallel to intelligence, or intelligence is parallel to growth. So we'll be talking about growth of intelligence or development of intelligence in the next few lessons.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Ramakrishna from Hyderabad. And if you want any further clarifications, do feel free to call in again. We can go on.
So I was discussing physical development. Now motor development is use of fingers and fine motor muscles of the body. Basically I was saying threading a needle, or playing with beads, or playing with blocks, or eating with a spoon. These are fine motor skills. Gross motor skills are running, jumping, climbing, etc. And then cognitive is that which involves thinking, problem solving, applying your intelligence in different ways. So intelligence seems to creep in every discussion that we take, because we are all very concerned about intelligence being important to everybody.
So when you talk about, you said intelligence is this issue of applying intelligence.
Yeah.
तो वो हर एक जैसे स्टेज है,
Activity में, हाँ।
अलग अलग स्तर पर वो एप्लीकेशन होती रहती है.
जी।
इन्फेंट को जब भूख लगती है तो
Yes.
रोने से उसको खाना मिलता है, या
जी।
अटेंशन मिलती है.
जी।
उससे शुरू करके आप हर एक लेवल पे.
स्कूल जाने से ले लीजिए.
जी.
जब बच्चा स्कूल जाता है, अपना काम करके घर आता है, होमवर्क करता है, she has to use intelligence to do all these things. So doing these things with your mind, applying your mind, is use of intelligence. Intelligence is not something that is there or not there. जितना हम यूज करेंगे उतना वो बढ़ती है.
एक और बात आप, as you go along, I just wanted to, ये जो disability, children with disabilities के, particularly children with cognitive impairment,
Yes, yeah.
आप जो कह रही हैं कि everybody is intelligent,
Yeah.
and then when we come into a domain of or an area where there is cognitive impairment,
Yes.
it doesn't mean that the child is not intelligent, but there is a
different level.
a different level.
Yes.
Is that what it
Yes,
is?
because when I started that, to understand disability, let's understand.
Yes.
So I would like to respond to your question, say this, that children with mental retardation or cognitive impairment, they have intelligence, but it is limited due to hereditary factor or environmental factor. So it does not grow as much as it grows in the case of non-retarded children. Okay. But the more the child uses it, the better it becomes. That has been seen in research. That means if the child goes to a school, he or she uses her intelligence more and then appears more intelligent than a child who just stays at home,
Okay.
and nobody interacts with the child. So there's a theory that tells us socio-cultural interaction adds to the intelligence.
So this is actually a very critical and
Yes,
important
stimulation.
area, in fact, for all of us who are working in the disability sector, to mark
Yes.
that it should be like a guiding, and it is in,
Yes,
in effect,
yes.
but it's something that maybe more awareness needs to be created for.
Yes.
that everybody is inherently intelligent, and it's a matter of how much opportunity we give for interactions and honing that intelligence.
yeah. So the other domains or areas are language, that means understanding what others say. So a baby can begin to understand long before the baby begins to speak. So if you tell the child, mother is coming, the child's eyes brighten up. Daddy is coming, the child's eyes brighten up, because he understands, but he can't say these two words yet. And then after that, they also understand other communications. We communicate a lot through our body, through our eyes. So even that's language. Then speaking and expressing own needs. So when the child uses her first word, we are so happy. And mostly the first word is referring to a member of the family, invariably again the mother, the father, the sister, or the grandmother, grandfather. That really makes us happy, because we say now the child has started speaking. It's a major milestone in the child's life and in our lives also when it's our baby. And because the child can express her needs, she says, I am hungry, or I want this, I want that. When a child is unable to do that, it is a great difficulty for others who are around the child, because again coming back to children with disability who are unable to express their needs, those who are working with them have a lot of difficulty in understanding what they want. Sometimes the child keeps crying and we don't know why the child is crying.
Absolutely.
Then social development is an important area, relating with the family, beginning with the parents, but siblings, the child's brothers and sisters, peers, that is friends, is very important, to be with others like self, and getting along in the world on the whole, getting out of the house and getting along with your neighbors, with people that you meet otherwise in family gatherings, and when the child goes to school. That is an important, that's the social world of the child. And emotional is, we refer to, as you know, emotions are feelings. We all have emotions of love, and we have sadness, we have happiness, we also get very angry, and we are also aggressive. All children have these emotions. The developmental part of it is understanding your emotion, understanding others' emotions, and dealing with them. And as we know, as we grow and as the child grows, the child is supposed to compose himself or herself even if he is angry, because it's not good to be angry. We teach our children those things. So these aspects are aspects of the child's full personality. I'm showing you this slide to say there's a teacher who's telling a story to the child, and she's using this opportunity to do a lot of conversation with the child. Here looks like a mother who's so happy with her child. They both look so happy. Very positive emotions both of them have. I think I had, yeah. And look at these two children, they are having a telephonic conversation sitting next to each other, and they're really involved in what they're saying to each other on the telephone. It's a very good activity for language development for children who do not speak. Just give them a telephone, they start speaking.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. It's something that we might like to
Yes.
mark.
Even
for
a
our
toy
work.
telephone, you give two children two toy telephones, and the ones who just don't say a word will start using a few words, and those who say a few words will start speaking a lot of
more
words.
words. Okay.
Then I come to an area, number 4, which is principles of development, which will now contain lot of things that I have said earlier, but I'll put them in order now. Development is continuous over the lifespan. So I said that from a single cell that gets fertilized to a full human being, it is continuous. It does not stop anywhere. Say, a child does not look big from day 1 to day 2, but the child does look bigger from day 1 to day 100,
Yes.
because continuously the growth has been going on. We haven't seen it.
Yes. It's
Okay?
more perceptible when you see it
Yes.
after a longer.
And yes, and also when somebody else sees a child after a gap,
yes.
they find that the child has grown. That
grown.
means it must have been continuous. It's not that it has now stopped because we can't see the child growing. Okay, Well, laughingly, jokingly, we do say, "Oh, seems to have stopped growing now." Okay, even when our height has stopped increasing,
We're still growing.
development is still
Still
going on.
happening.
Because there are other changes. Then it occurs in a sequence because it follows a pattern. All children, anywhere in the world, there is the same sequence that is followed, more or less. For instance, the child who's lying down as a baby will have to sit up first.
Acha, we have a phone call,
Yeah.
listener who's calling in. Can we take that?
Yeah.
बोलिए.
एक्सक्यूज मी मैडम, मैं चाहता हूँ कि मेरा, आपने जैसे कहा कि सेंसरी परसेप्चुअल को बिना बताए हुए आपने कहा फर्स्ट वर्ड पर करेंगे, लेकिन अगर कोई बच्चा ऐसा है जिसका सेंसरी परसेप्चुअल अच्छा नहीं है तो हम उसके लिए क्या कर सकते हैं? मतलब पहले उसके वर्ड लेवल पर सिखाना अच्छा होगा या किसी सिलेबस को परसेप्चुअल डेवलप करना होगा? प्लीज उसको थोड़ा सा डिफाइन कर दीजिए।
ये प्रश्न शायद हम थोड़ी देर बाद लेंगे, मगर मैं प्रश्न डॉक्टर शर्मा को देती हूँ. वो कह रहे हैं कि अगर कोई बच्चे का सेंसरी परसेप्चुअल एरिया में प्रॉब्लम है तो उनके साथ कैसे शुरुआत करें, क्या वर्ड यूज़ करना शुरू करें या किस तरह की इंटरवेंशन की रूट लें हम बच्चे के साथ काम करने के लिए.
लैंग्वेज डेवलपमेंट.
हाँ जी, ये लग रहा है लैंग्वेज डेवलपमेंट के
तो ये
area.
जो व्हेन आई अभी सीक्वेंस की बात करूंगी उससे लिंक हो जाएगा,
जी.
क्योंकि इवन लैंग्वेज डेवलपमेंट में भी सीक्वेंस है. सबसे पहले बच्चा समझने लगता है ना. समझने के बाद बोलने की कोशिश करता है. बोलने के बाद पहले कुछ साउंड्स आती हैं, उसमें से एक वर्ड निकलता है, उसमें से 2 वर्ड निकलते हैं, उसमें से नाउन और वर्ब जुड़ जाते हैं, और फिर जो
ऐसा-
बच्चे
ऐसा
के आसपास जो होता है उसके विषय में अलग बोलता है. तो अगर आपको इंटरवेंशन करनी है, इसी ढंग से करिए कि पहले बच्चा समझना सीखे, फिर बोलने की कोशिश करे, और उसको पहले देखिए, हम अडल्ट जैसे हम होते हैं, बच्चा एक शब्द बोलता है पर हम तो पूरा वाक्य बोलते हैं. तो जो इंटरवेंशन करने वाले व्यक्ति हैं उनको पूरा ही बोलना है, चाहे बच्चा एक ही शब्द बोलना सीखे उसमें से, पर हम एक शब्द पे ज़्यादा ध्यान दे सकते हैं. अगर हम बच्चे को इस वस्तु का नाम सिखाना चाहते हैं, देखो ये मेज़ है, ये टेबल है, तो हम ये नहीं कहेंगे टेबल, हम कहेंगे यह टेबल है. द चाइल्ड विल ओनली से टेबल.
ओके.
सो द सीक्वेंस हैज़ टू बी, जो नॉर्मल सीक्वेंस है, हमें उसी के हिसाब से चलना है. द चाइल्ड विल ऑटोमेटिकली बिगिन टू लर्न इन द सेम वे.
ओके.
So the intervention should be understanding this principle and using them.
ओके. आई होप आपका प्रश्न का जवाब आपको कुछ हद तक मिला होगा. जो डॉक्टर शर्मा ने कहा अभी के, वो जो नॉर्मेटिव पैटर्न होती है हम स्पीच और लैंग्वेज डेवलपमेंट में, उसी ढंग से हमें भी इंटरवीन करना चाहिए. पहले बच्चा समझ रहा है कि नहीं, फिर बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा है कि नहीं, उससे, और फिर आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. और हम जब उन बच्चे के साथ काम कर रहे हैं तो हम, जैसे डॉक्टर शर्मा ने कहा कि सेंटेंस ही, वाक्य ही यूज़ करेंगे, और बच्चा वो ऑब्जेक्ट को आइडेंटिफाई करने से शुरुआत करेगा शायद, और ऐसे करके आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बढ़ेंगे.
जी. तो क्योंकि हर एक चीज़, चाहे वो फिजिकल मोटर डेवलपमेंट है या सोशल है, उसका एक पैटर्न है, उस हिसाब से चलता, सीक्वेंस में होता है. किंतु ये होता है कि बच्चे का जो वातावरण है, एनवायरनमेंट है, उसका उस पर असर ज़रूर पड़ता है. तो उससे सीक्वेंस नहीं चेंज होता, पर यह है कि जो बच्चे बड़े परिवार में रहते हैं वो अधिक लोगों के नाम जानते हैं. जो केवल माँ बाप के साथ रहते हैं या उनके बहन भाई नहीं हैं अभी, तो वो कम लोगों को जानते हैं. इससे सीक्वेंस नहीं चेंज होता. तो सीक्वेंस, जैसे मैंने फिजिकल होता है, बैठ के ही खड़ा होगा, खड़े होके ही भागेगा, और भाग कर ही चढ़ेगा कहीं पर. सो इट विल नॉट हैपन कि वो लेटा सीधा भागने लग जाएगा. इसी प्रकार से कॉग्निटिव, लैंग्वेज, हर एक में वो बने हुए हैं, और वो आपको जो कल और परसों के बाद पढ़ाने आएंगे वो आपको सारी स्टेजेस समझाएंगे इसके विषय में. अर्ली ईयर्स ऑफ द लाइफ आर द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट. सबसे अधिक जिंदगी के पहले 6 साल, पैदा होने से नहीं, पैदा होने से पहले से लेके 6 साल तक की आयु के सबसे अधिक आवश्यक इसलिए होते हैं क्योंकि उस समय कोई डैमेज जो हो जाता है वो लगभग उसको पूरा करना मुश्किल हो जाता है. इसलिए हम कहते हैं कि बच्चा आंगनवाड़ी जाए, बालवाड़ी जाए, जो उस समय सीख लेता है वो सारी ज़िंदगी काम आता है. उस समय जो थोड़ा सा एट रिस्क बच्चा है, जो अंडरवेट बच्चा है, जो कमज़ोर बच्चा है, जो थोड़ी सी डिले दिखा रहा है, अगर उसको हम इंटरवेंशन इन 6 साल में दे दें, वो बहुत ज़्यादा
बहुत
असर
हद
करती
तक इम्प्रूवमेंट की
इम्प्रूवमेंट हो जाती है।
जी।
अगर ये मिस हो जाते हैं 6 साल, उसके बाद पता चलता है तो उसको कैचअप करना मुश्किल हो जाता है, क्योंकि बच्चे का ब्रेन डेवलपमेंट कंप्लीट हो जाता है लगभग 6
6
साल
साल
के
तक। इसमें ये जो हम प्लास्टिसिटी ऑफ
Yeah.
द ब्रेन का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है,
राइट
जो
98% कंप्लीट हो जाता है, तो 2% 6 साल के बाद एंड तक 2% ही हो पाता है
अच्छा,
अधिकतर एरियाज में।
तो ये हमें मतलब इट्स वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट दैट वी ऑल नीड टू definitely underscore when we are doing our training is that is the importance of early intervention, importance of noting the different being aware of the various stages of development, and wherever there are these gaps or sort of lags or delays, हम जल्द से जल्द अगर intervene करें 6 साल से पहले की उम्र से पहले, तो हम we can expect a considerable improvement in the abilities of the child.
नेक्स्ट पॉइंट पे हम जाते हैं, विच सेज इंडिविजुअल डिफरेंसेस आर देयर अमंग चिल्ड्रन। मतलब मान लीजिए 4 और 6 साल की आयु के बच्चे हैं जिसके संग हम बात कर रहे हैं या उनके संग हम काम कर रहे हैं, हर एक 4 साल का बच्चा हर दूसरे 4 साल के बच्चे के बराबर नहीं होगा। Every 4-year-old is not like other 4-year-olds. Every 5-year-old is not like other
The
5-year-old, which means it is natural that they'll be different. It is unnatural that they are identical.
I
Okay?
see.
घर में भी अगर 2-3 बहन भाई हैं, माँ बाप जानते हैं कि मेरा पहला बच्चा ऐसा था, अब दूसरा ऐसा है, और अधिकतर वो उदाहरण जब देते हैं तो हमेशा कहते हैं ये तो ऐसा नहीं था पर ये ऐसा है,
जी,
which
जी।
means we not only accept, we should expect the differences to be there, but वो difference जो between one child and another है, अगर वो इतना wide है कि वो हमारी रेंज में नहीं आ रहा है माइलस्टोन्स की, तब हमें चिंता करनी चाहिए। पर कोई बच्चा, हम जानते हैं कोई केला खाना पसंद करता है और कोई पसंद नहीं करता है,
जी जी,
किसी को दूध अच्छा लगता है तो किसी को नहीं
ये तो
लगता है।
टिपिकल एग्जांपल्स हैं।
इसीलिए एक बच्चा 1 साल की आयु में चलना शुरू कर देता है, दूसरा बच्चा 12 महीने और 2 महीने और लगाता है, और तीसरा बच्चा 18 महीने पर चलता है। ये तीनों नॉर्मल रेंज में हैं, पर यदि 2 साल तक बच्चा नहीं चला तो हमें सोचना है कि कुछ
जी,
बात
चिंता
है।
करने वाली बात
तो
है।
ये आपकी एजुकेशन और एक्सपीरियंस दोनों काम आएंगे कि चिंता कब करनी है, एक्शन कब लेना है। डिले जो होता है वो जरूरी नहीं डिसेबिलिटी है, कई बार डिले इज जस्ट अ डिफरेंस। ओके, बिकॉज
This is very important point that you're making actually. Yes.
क्योंकि मदर्स में से मेरा फर्स्ट चाइल्ड वाज रनिंग एट 1,
Yes.
okay, this child is not even trying to run at 14 months.
Absolutely.
So do I need to do something about it? So we ask so many 10 other questions, say no, don't worry, because सिर्फ एक ही एरिया में डिले नहीं होगा, फिर अब बाकी एरिया में भी तो डिले होगा ना। So इसलिए we must accept and expect differences between children, and in your coursework you will learn when does a difference become a delay, and therefore reason for intervention and assessment and intervention.
Okay. There are two very interesting points here actually. One is of course understanding, as you said, the differences and marking whether there is
Yeah.
cause for concern, whether it's just a matter of a delay.
Right.
And of course the other thing is, I don't know whether this is the right point to mention it, this other aspect of diversity, difference in
Yeah.
terms of diversity, and accepting that you said we should accept and in fact expect differences.
Yes.
तो ये तो sort of normal जो framework में है वो तो है, मगर when it comes to children with disabilities and their acceptance in society and so on,
Right.
then and when now in the age when we're talking about inclusive education and
Yes.
advocating for things like, it's very important to take this one step further into accepting differences and accepting diversity.
Diversity, yes. Because we are working in the area of disability primarily for these talks, I know that you are very aware already that differences, when they go beyond a certain level, then it is our role to take action. But even to accept that diversity is bound to happen in a large population, and therefore the earlier we act and the more appropriate work we do, the diversity, despite acceptance, can be converted into optimizing the child's potential.
Potential, yeah. The
Okay.
focus should be
Because
on
yes,
that. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
We don't know, it's not given to us, but we find every day when we work with the child, we can see a change,
Yes.
and change means development. So when change and development are taking place, we know that the child is capable of more.
Absolutely.
And attitudinally, all diversity has to be respected. In our country, we are full of religious, cultural, skin color diversities, and therefore human diversities of performance also have to be respected as much.
Okay.
And we are getting used to that idea
Yeah.
now. And then the next 2 points will tell you that maturation and learning have an important role. All children do not mature at the same time. They, when I say mature, one child is mature enough to eat on her own, another one is not. But that is also influenced by cultural experience. One mother is willing to let the child eat on her own, another one says, you don't know, I'll feed you.
teach you. I'll
So
feed
the
you, yeah.
more, the longer the mother feeds the child, the later the child is going to learn to eat. And the earlier the mother says, I think you are old enough, doesn't matter if you spill some food,
Okay.
let me do that for you. It is call है.
हाँ, but बोलिए.
जी, जैसा कि आपके कहने के अनुसार सभी बच्चे इंटेलिजेंट होते हैं,
हाँ जी.
तो हम जानना चाहेंगे कि कितना अर्ली इंटरवेंशन, जैसे 0 से 6 साल तक,
हाँ जी.
अगर हम अर्ली इंटरवेंशन बच्चे को देते हैं, तो क्या वह सामान्य बच्चे की तरह सीख जाएगा, एक डिसेबल्ड बच्चा?
मैडम, ये प्रश्न है वाराणसी से. वो कह रहे हैं कि जैसे आपने कहा कि एवरीबडी इज इंटेलिजेंट, तो अर्ली इंटरवेंशन करने से वो कितना हद तक नॉर्मल हो जाएगा बच्चा. दे वांट टू नो दैट.
इसके लिए जानना जरूरी है कि बच्चे में किस प्रकार की डिसेबिलिटी है. अगर वो-
एक और प्रश्न है, उसको भी ले लेते हैं.
हाँ, हाँ.
हाँ, बोलिए. हैदराबाद से कॉल है, बोलिए.
Question करना.
हाँ, प्लीज आस्क.
Development is happen sequentially, you told.
या.
But suppose if due to the poor socio-economic background, what consequences happen? Kindly told me.
Okay. This question is from Hyderabad. They are saying that you said that there are sequences in development stages, but what impact does socio-economic environment play in the development of a child?
See, sequence is much more biological. जो sequence in things like physical motor development and even cognitive development is something that we can't change. So when you come to the lectures on intelligence cognition, the speaker will tell the students that a certain stage of cognitive development has to be crossed before you go to the next stage. So that cannot alter. It is possible that a child with retardation may not reach the last stage or the one before that, but he has to go through the first stage first before he goes to the second stage.
Okay. So
Okay.
we have to follow the normative pattern.
It follows on its own. For instance, we cannot try to quicken the
Jump
pace.
the process
We
either.
can't say the child must start becoming abstract before the child becomes concrete in thinking. Okay, concrete thinking is that I have to see the thing before I accept it is there.
Yeah.
Abstract is I can't see so many things in the sky,
But I can imagine
but I believe they are there.
there. Okay.
So the child has to go through this. So even when we are working in our intervention areas, if we know that this is true, then we do not make mistakes in making things done to the child. We don't force the children to do things which they are not ready for which they are not mature yet,
Okay.
organically. And the child's own response tells you whether the child is mature for it or not.
Okay, I think the other aspect, if I am not mistaken, the caller from Hyderabad, he was looking at if the child is in a poor or a needy situation, so does that have any effect on?
You see, if because the child is poor, is deprived,
Deprived,
of,
yes.
is undernourished, and the environment is very poor, it will actually affect the overall development. So if it is making, see, all poor children are not necessarily developmentally slow. We have seen that they're
Yeah.
very smart. Actually, in the motor development, they're very smart because they're made to do so many things in the house.
Okay.
I mean, the girls can cook much
but
earlier than
earlier
middle
age,
class girls.
yes, yes.
So, provided the health is all right, even if it's not excellent, even if it's 50%, we find that their grasping ability is as good as any other child. So, socioeconomic, if the child is deprived and malnourished, if the child is deprived of social contact, is not emotionally taken care of course it will affect the child's health, mental health, all
And
kinds
growth
of
and development.
growth and development. But there has always been this debate, how much is too much? So there is no quantification. So we cannot say children on the street are less developed. They are equally well developed. I mean, all the rag pickers that come around our homes are very smart, however they are managing.
Okay. I hope your question is answered to some extent, because I think here there is a duality really,
Yeah.
you know, where socio-economic factors do affect, but only in a certain way, and they do not necessarily impair or affect the growth and development, as Madam was saying, that sometimes because of the exposure to difficult situations, the child may learn to cope better and develop certain skills much better than a child who has does not have to cope or face hardships. So there are two aspects to this. वो जो पहला प्रश्न था मैडम वाराणसी से, वो पूछ रहे थे कि हम अगर इंटरवीन करें तो कितना हद तक नॉर्मल या सुधर जाएगा, या
जो अर्ली इंटरवेंशन का प्रिंसिपल ही वही है कि जितनी जल्दी हम अप्रोप्रिएट एक्टिविटी या काम करना शुरू करते हैं उतना ही बच्चे को फायदा होता है. वो क्वांटिफाई करना मुश्किल है कि कितना फायदा होगा. बच्चे की स्टेज क्या है
जी,
उसको कितनी डेप्रिवेशन ऑलरेडी है, कितना नुकसान हो चुका है, और हमारी इंटरेक्शन कितनी अप्रोप्रिएट है, हम कितना प्यार दुलार से वो काम करते हैं, मन लगा के करते हैं. एंड वी कैन नॉट फिक्स कि हर एक बच्चे का इतना ही होगा. वी हैव टू जस्ट सी. पर ये चीज़ है, फायदा जरूर
होगा.
ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं होगा. वी मे नॉट सी ग्रोथ बट देयर विल बी डेवलपमेंट.
ओके, दैट्स इंटरेस्टिंग. एक्चुअली मैं पहले सेरेब्रल पॉलिसी सेक्टर से जुड़ी थी, तो वहाँ भी हम मतलब जब हमारी काउंसलिंग वगैरह होती थी तो हम लोगों को, पेरेंट्स विशेष करके जो पेरेंट्स आते थे, उनको ये बताया जाता था कि the improvement is dependent on the extent and the location of the brain damage in this case, which is a causal factor of cerebral palsy. So that is, but the fact is that you have to intervene as early as possible to maximize on the potential and the abilities of the rest of the areas of the brain or of, you know, the functions of the body and so on.
Our experience in the nursery school also, children who came lying down to the nursery school went out walking. Okay,
so it can be
2 to 3 years जो उन्होंने हमारे साथ spend किए, उसमें इतनी interesting activities, physiotherapy, speech therapy और classroom nursery activities जो होती हैं, they really enjoy it so much.
Yes.
So they have the motivation to walk, and they have peers who do not make fun of them, who play with them like they play with other children. They may be wheelchair users for a while, but the attempt is to help them to stand, to take one step and to walk, and many of them have gone out walking and gone to regular schools after that. So it requires a lot of appropriate intervention.
Appropriate and perhaps intensive, like a stimulation, I think, you know, continuous stimulation of all aspects of the person, so that
and which is not painful to the
yes,
child. It should not be too
of
much
course,
also.
yes, that's also
Not overstimulation.
I
So
see, okay.
here the last point, which again would interest most listeners, is heredity and environment both play a vital role. That means कुछ जो चीज़ें बच्चे के साथ हुई हैं, डिसेबिलिटीज़ हुई हैं, वो हेरिडिटरी हुई हैं, उनके वंश की वजह से हुई हैं, और कुछ उनके वातावरण, एनवायरनमेंट से आई हैं. साधारण एग्जांपल है, हम जानते हैं जैसे डाउन सिंड्रोम एक चीज़ है
जी,
जो ना माता पिता के अंदर तो नहीं थी, पर फिर भी कुछ ऐसा फैक्टर है जिस वजह से वो बच्चा पैदा ही उस सिंड्रोम के संग होता है.
जी.
So while it is not inherited, but it is at the organic level. वो उसके जीन्स में है,
जी.
हाँ, उसके क्रोमोसोम्स में है.
Okay.
और एनवायरमेंटल होता है, बच्चा ठीक ठाक पैदा होता है, बड़ा होने लगता है, पर ऐसे
कोई हादसा या
सोशो इकोनॉमिक
हाँ,
फैक्टर्स
और-
फॉर इंस्टेंस कम इन हियर. इतना पुअर है परिवार कि उसको 2 समय का पूरा खाना भी नहीं दे पाते हैं, और लगातार डेफिशिएंट इन विटामिन मिनरल्स फूड खाने से द चाइल्ड कैन डेवलप मेंटल रिटार्डेशन. That
Okay,
can also
yeah.
happen. The child can have stunted growth, physical growth development भी बहुत कम हो जाती है. बहुत सी लड़कियां अपनी adolescence की जो puberty right time पे नहीं पहुंच पाती हैं because they are undernourished. So both together. But even if a child has inherited everything normal, parents में कोई abnormality नहीं है which is hereditary, even then unless there is a good environment, a healthy environment, वो पनपने में कुछ ना कुछ रह सकती है कमी. जैसे we can take an example. If the child is okay when born, does not go to any school at all and does not attend any program which is similar in nature, will not be able to perform certain intellectual activities which those who go to school can perform. For instance, certain mathematical things they cannot perform because that is
Okay.
only taught formally in school. भाषा का विकास हो जाएगा but not in a formal way. So
Okay.
वैसे देखने में उनमें कोई खास कमी नहीं है. Yet in our world today they cannot stand on their own feet. They cannot compete with those who have been to school, who have competed, sit for competitions.
Okay.
That is there. Huh? It may not be the child's fault, yet it is important. A child may be born to a genius father, but if he is neglected, however well off they are, the child is left without much care, just given the food because that has to be given, the child cannot achieve the potential that the child has.
Okay, so these are really very critical, in fact, the environmental factors that you refer
Yeah.
here, and it can bring about that difference. One child may, I mean, in similar situations, so-called two normal children could also grow up totally differently.
Very differently.
Because of the impact of environmental factors. I hope this also addresses the question of the gentleman who called in from Hyderabad, and please feel free to call again if you want any further clarification,
Yeah.
or if the issue that you want has not been addressed.
Yeah. In fact, the more recent environmental factors that have affected children across the world are the children in Kashmir, the children in Iraq, are living examples of how they have suffered because their environment has really, because of the situation, war-like situation in those
Yeah.
places.
And the vulnerable
But they have
situation.
the most
that-
vulnerable category, they are not only not going to school, emotionally they have suffered a lot. So what kind of adults they will be, it is really very, very difficult to even imagine.
Yes, I'm sure. And in fact, one does hear of a lot of such situations where children who have been exposed to ethnic violence and problems of strife and things like that. And then nowadays one hears about, although this is going a little off the track, but it's important to flag it, then we have this very disturbing phenomenon of child soldiers
Yes,
that
in some countries,
in
they're being
some
used.
countries, and
Yeah.
even as close as the northeast, which is where
Yes. Yeah.
I have originally based, there are some very horrific
Yes.
instances of
Yeah,
young
we
children
watch
who
it in
are
some programs.
Yes.
So let me just move on quickly to just a picture of children praying. I think I'll have to go back. Heredity and environment is a topic which in between many listeners have talked about. Both heredity and environmental, that means genetic factors that the genes that we receive from the parents, who have also received from the previous generations, those and the environment, including the prenatal environment before the child is born, are very, very important in determining what kind of potential the child will have and how the child will develop these. For instance, heredity is also called nature. There is a certain nature that the child is born with. Here nature doesn't mean temperament, it means natural, genetic, the genes that the child receives from both parents. Then there is environment, which is also called nurture, looking after. Includes physical and the social world, the climate around us, the nutrition, the pollution that we live in these days, family, friends which are called peers, school or any other program, the larger community of which we are a part, and even our religion. We are all part of our environment, and all of these are important in helping the child become a full, happy human being as she and he grows. Some examples are, for instance, physical features are much more easily understood as inherited. The shape of my nose, the color of my eyes, the skin color, the resemblance that we have with our parents or even grandparents, the resemblance that children have with their brothers and sisters, the resemblance that twins have with each other, it is a hereditary factor.
Okay.
But intelligence is something very difficult to put your finger on. If both parents are very intelligent, likely to be intelligent, but there is no guarantee. You can have a Down syndrome child born to very intelligent parents, not in our hands, and it has an effect on so many other factors. And then temperament also is a very difficult thing to judge. By temperament, some people are warm, some people are cold, some people are in between. Okay. Some people are slow to warm up. There are babies who respond to you immediately when you go to them.
Yes, that's
And
so
some
true.
people are get scared of you. Okay, that's the child's
And they take a little
temperament.
time to get familiar.
Yes,
Once they get
yes.
familiar, they warm up.
And that's very difficult to change. Even by adulthood, it doesn't change easily.
Is
In
that
fact, the
so?
most common complaint that we get from parents is, my child is very shy. Can you do something to that?
Okay.
And
in this
I
modern
say,
day, it's such a-
don't change it. If the child is born with this, don't make the child unshy, because ये उसकी मन से उसने कुछ ऐसा धारणा नहीं बनाई है, वो ऐसा ही है.
I see.
Okay, because every parent wants their child to go to the stage and
Perform
and
yes,
read a
true.
poem or take part in the drama and music. But many children say, I don't want to do it, and pushing such children is not appropriate, because you're working against their nature, you're working against their temperament. And some who will not even sit down for one moment because they're so active, they have so much energy, they are so outgoing, they are so assertive, they are so aggressive, और उनको भी एकदम से
अब बिठा के
आपको
चुपचाप
नहीं कर सकते
हाँ.
हैं. So there are temperament types which are very difficult to know how they inherited them, because neither of the parents may be like that. It is much more complicated than just
But
that.
tell me, ये जो heredity और environment की जो आप बात कर रहे हैं, एक there is a very thin line somewhere also, जैसे कि आप मतलब आप जो बता रहे थे, supposing the parents, हम क्या कह सकते हैं कि he or she, the child is like this because he's inherited that temperament from the parent, और जो माहौल, that माहौल in which the child grows up, that
That also affects.
that is close to inherit.
Yeah.
It's, here you're talking, when you say heredity, it's really genetic only that you referred to in your slide.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is a little more that comes with heredity, which is actually attitudes and issues that you imbibe.
Right. You see, there is recent research which scientists are discovering that every individual is more because of the way he or she was born or inherited than. It's a very controversial thing.
I
So I
see.
don't want to say it, but what will help to understand is, if you are born with certain tendencies, you are likely to use your environment in that way. Okay, there's a glass of water lying here. Whether or not I'll drink it is up to me, isn't it?
Ji.
Some people will drink more water than I would, so there's nothing wrong with the water there. But I get more thirsty than others or less thirsty than others.
Okay.
So that's in me, and it may be due to my nature. Most of it is inherited, but I can't say my mother used to drink more water, so therefore I drink more. So it's not so easy, so direct, so straight.
Okay.
Okay, but each child see, if the simplest example is in the same family, the family has two children. One loves to do something, another one hates that. किसी को लौकी की सब्जी अच्छी लगती है, किसी को बुरी लगती है.
जी.
Okay, why does it happen? वही तो parents है. Because each child has a nature that he or she is born with. We don't know whether it is in the genes or not.
Okay.
So however hard the mother tries, she is not able to convince the other child to have that sabji, isn't it?
Yes.
So if we take that
typical
example,
examples.
yeah, I
yes.
gave you an example because I experienced that myself. Therefore, the parents cannot always say, it's very nice and convenient to say he's like the father, she's like the mother,
जी,
he's
जी,
like
वो
the
तो हम
aunt.
रोज
So
सुनते
when
हैं.
normally when we have a nice thing, we say it's like me. When it's not so nice thing, it's like somebody else.
So true.
But these are very simple reasons, and I think it's a very beautiful thing that life is not so simple, that it is so complex that we'll keep on trying to understand it. And therefore the human, that human genome project which is on across different countries, they're trying to unravel कि व्यक्ति कितना जीन से बना है और कितना बाकी चीज़ों से बना है, और वो कहते हैं कि लगभग 90% it is genetic
जीन से ही आता है.
yes, there are
जेनेटिक
genes
कोड
also,
में ही आ
yes,
जाता
genetic
है.
code में इतना कुछ लिखा हुआ है. Even the way I'm sitting and my neck is this way or that way is determined by my genetic constitution, rather than that I'm not copying anybody else.
Okay.
So I think with this picture, just for no particular reason, but this one child with Down syndrome is as focused as the other children in this group, and therefore I just thought I'll bring you back to are there any questions that you think we need to
There were
take
some questions which we've discussed in some way, but I'd just like to raise one or two points again. एक तो when you talk about early intervention, there was one question I said, how soon, कितनी जल्दी हम infancy, बच्चे की infancy में मतलब कितनी जल्दी हम बच्चे के कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, ये जो डिसेबिलिटी या इस तरह का कुछ वार्निंग सिग्नल,
how soon can you make out?
yes, how soon can we find, determine that there is a problem?
See, if the child is born in a place where there is a doctor, either a pediatrician or a doctor, वो तो at birth when they check reflexes, they can make out
Okay.
that this reflex is absent or present, and whether the child is likely to reveal this a little later or not. Grasping reflex है, Moro reflex है.
जी.
But if it is beyond that, I think the milestones जो हमारी list होती है, there's a range. इस time से इस time तक the child should show a smile.
जी.
After that the child must hold her neck.
जी, जी.
So it is as early as that you can make out.
Okay.
That we
The
may not
moment
know
there
what
is a
the problem is, but we
is
know
that
yes,
there is
there's
a
child at
problem.
risk.
Ah.
This child, even if the child is born underweight, it is advised below 2.5 kilos, the child is already at risk. So everything must be checked.
Okay.
Some children do put on weight. They are born slightly lighter, but they put on weight very soon. But there is nothing unfamiliar or unnatural about their reflexes.
Okay.
So as from birth onwards, it is possible to make out. And intervention can actually begin there itself.
Right
But
then.
what to do is we have to do it under guidance.
Okay.
For instance, nowadays it is advised that some things begin to improve when you massage the child's arms and legs a little
Certain
bit,
points,
certain
joints
points,
and
yeah.
so on.
But we should do it under guidance and not do it without knowing.
Yeah.
If the child is not holding her neck and many months have passed, immediately.
The other thing that I जो आपने पहले कहा जो differences और delay की जो बात आपने कही ना, so in this context I was asking this कि अगर बच्चा अपने वो milestone miss कर रहा है या if there is something that you're uneasy about कि इतने महीने में ये करना चाहिए था, ये नहीं हुआ है, delay हो रही है, तो what tends to happen, in fact that is our experience in the field, that parents do tend to wait and see,
Yes.
and that you know, the concern, whether it's a matter of stigma that the families feel that the child gets labeled as a high risk or a child likely to have a disability, that deters them from seeking help and seeking support. And in the process, that precious जो 0 to 6 years की जो आप बात कर रहे थे, that precious time is lost. तो आप क्या कह, do you think that if we intervene, अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती है, डिसेबिलिटी नहीं है, फिर भी हम बच्चे की भला के लिए ही जो हम करेंगे इंटरवेंशन, वो it will help the child in any case, even if the child does not show any signs of disability as we go along. ये इसके बारे में ज़रा
आप, it has been studied through research that all parents wait for that action to take place, because after all they are parents, they are emotionally involved, their children are extension of their own
themselves. Yes.
They don't want to believe that my child is slow or may have a disability or is different. So that is one reason why parents do not ever see that there is something. In fact, many parents whose children have mental retardation, which may be moderate, not severe, and the children are not talking even when they come to preschool. So what they would tell us is, he can do everything but he is not talking.
Yes, they try to mask the problem.
So they say इसको आप speech सिखा दीजिए, बाकी सब कुछ तो इसको आता है. तो हम जब देखते हैं कि बाकी सब कुछ भी नहीं आता है, वो walk कर रहा है, वो feeding नहीं आता है, toilet training, can't go to the bathroom himself, तो वो चीज़ों वो खुद ले जाते हैं, खुद खिला पिला देते हैं. तो इसलिए उनको नहीं लगता है. पर क्योंकि भाषा जो है वो उन्होंने नहीं सुनी, उसके मुंह से इशारों से बात करता है बच्चा, प्लस लोग कहने वाले बहुत होते हैं, अच्छा ये अभी तक बोलता नहीं है, फर्स्ट थिंग दे सेज, ये बोलता है कि नहीं. सो इसलिए उनको ऐसा लगता है कि उनको लगता है कि थोड़ी ट्रेनिंग होगी तो ये बोलने लग जाएगा, एंड दे डोंट वांट टू एक्सेप्ट कि द चाइल्ड हैज मेंटल रिटार्डेशन. ओके, दैट्स अ पेरेंट साइकोलॉजी एंड वेरी नेचुरल. आई डू नॉट ब्लेम द पेरेंट्स फॉर डूइंग दैट. एंड ऑल्सो इन आवर कंट्री we don't have access to doctors who will immediately point this out to them. Okay, very few places have pediatricians, and a lot of pediatricians also are very busy. They're not able to give time, because to assess the child you need several sessions. You can't just do it, take a look
one
at the
sitting.
child. Okay, so but definitely if the parent deny it and delay it, कोई बात नहीं, थोड़ा और देख लेते हैं और देख लेते हैं और देख लेते हैं. अब हमारे ही नेबरहुड में एक बच्ची है, उसके both parents are deaf, they have no hearing at all. Okay, they is a marriage, arranged marriage, one deaf person marrying a deaf lady. They've had a child, and this child is now running around, and I have seen that she cannot hear much, but they've not yet taken her for assessment, despite my saying get her assessed. They're hoping that she will hear. The grandmother says शायद उसको थोड़ा थोड़ा सुनता है. ऐसे तो आप एम्स में असेस करा लीजिए ना, वो तो नो प्रॉब्लम है. बट इवन इफ शी हैज बीन असेस्ड, आई डोंट थिंक दे हैव टेकन एनी एक्शन टू गेट द चाइल्ड टू हियर समथिंग, टू नो. एंड आई एज अ नेबर, इट्स अ वेरी सेंसिटिव इशू. आई कांट गो टू देम, आपने वो कराया कि नहीं कराया, आप बच्चे को हियरिंग एड लगाइए, वो कहेंगे आप कौन होते हैं. सो हमारे देश में तो हम एक दूसरे को ऐसी बात भी नहीं कह सकते हैं ना. So इसीलिए delay, as you know, if it is delayed, she will not hear at all. But if she gets a hearing aid now, she will be able to hear. I have a living example of this experience. So while we understand why parents want to delay it, we know that they need help, but it's not easily available.
Yes, it's very true. And the thing that the point that I wanted to make was that if if we can convince families to intervene, and even if there is no disability, because you just basically achieve a delayed milestone, and that helps in the overall process. और एक बात जो आप कह रही थी, that's also very typical, and that is a problem that it's that professionals in the field often have to grapple with, is this accepting with difficulty one delay or one aspect of development, whether it's a physical, बच्चा को किसी तरह से let the child walk, if the child has say CP for instance. But the fact that we really need to intervene in a holistic way and intervene at all levels and ensure that all the other abilities of the child, the cognitive ability, the language communication, the daily living activity skills and so on are you know,
addressed.
developed parallelly at the
Yeah,
same time. These are some critical kind of
Yes, and I think for that the parents do need guidance, because it cannot come to them automatically, and therefore the role of all the listeners when they begin to
Yes.
work with them, that it's very important to see parents as resources, not as people who need to be told always, because they're
Yes.
full of information that we don't have,
exactly.
but helping them to use that information, because I think most parents are very receptive. Once they begin to see any change in the child, they will not let you go. But at the same time, they are also difficult in many ways. Sometimes very difficult to convince them. They don't have time. I mean, mothers are so fully occupied with this child and so many other activities. She feels burdened, I think. So the other members, father and other members also have to.
There was another aspect, ये जो आप heredity and environment की बात कर रहे थे, we have seen in many situations where examples where एक family में जहाँ मान लीजिए बच्ची को visual impairment है और शुरू से ही अगर family ने accept कर लिया तो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता family के members बच्चे को यू नो लोकल अपने घर के माहौल के अंदर ही सिखाना शुरू करते हैं कैसे हैंडल करना है, उनकी ओरिएंटेशन मोबिलिटी की जो वो जो स्किल्स हैं वो घर के माहौल में ही अगर इनकरेज करके सिखाया जाता है तो वो बच्चा जल्द से जल्द शायद और बच्चों के साथ स्कूल भी चल जा सकता है। और अगर उसी फैमिली उसी तरह की और एक सिचुएशन हो सकती है जहाँ पे बच्चे की डिसेबिलिटी है, से विजुअल इम्पेयरमेंट है, कॉग्निटिव और अदर एरियाज में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मगर जो एक भय और जो डर सा होता है फैमिलीज के बाकी मेंबर्स में कि कुछ नहीं कर पाएगी बच्ची, अकेली है, उसको छोड़ देते हैं, सिर्फ खिलाते हैं पिलाते हैं और बस अकेले छोड़ देते हैं, तो उस बच्चे का जो आप जो कह रहे थे या डिप्रिवेशन होता है और फिर आहिस्ता आहिस्ता शायद हम मंदबुद्धिता नहीं कह सकते हैं मगर एक तरह का बिहेवियर प्रॉब्लम जो
नहीं, पर उसमें वो फीचर्स भी आ जाएंगे जो मंदबुद्धि बच्चों के होते हैं
जी, वो
Because as I
रॉकिंग और
said,
सेल्फ
environment is very
स्टिम्युलेशन और वो
important.
टाइप की
for the child to demonstrate that she has intelligence, she has to interact with the environment. She has to see the tree, she has to see the bird, she has to play with the children. In fact, जो
Absolutely.
बच्चों के संग नहीं खेलते हैं उनमें भी बहुत कमी रहती है और देखने में भी कई बार वो इंटेलेक्चुअली बहुत डिप्राइव्ड लगते हैं। इसलिए तो वो आजकल कहा जाता है ना, जो बच्चे केवल कंप्यूटर से ही खेलते हैं
जी, वो
और बाकी
तो
बच्चों
हाँ
से उनमें वही फीचर्स आने लगते हैं जो कि एक ऑटिस्टिक बच्चों में होते हैं,
जो अपने आप में ही लीन होते हैं जी,
नॉट लिटरली बट दे आर हैप्पी विद देमसेल्व्स। वो आजकल भय बहुत पेरेंट्स में आ गया है कि माय चाइल्ड इज डजंट वांट टू गो आउट एंड प्ले
ओनली विद कंप्यूटर्स और
computer और
वाचिंग
internet,
टीवी
हाँ।
और समथिंग लाइक दैट।
हाँ, तो वो इसलिए है क्योंकि बच्चों के संग खेल के ही इंटेलिजेंस बढ़ती है, बड़ों के संग बातचीत करते ही सोशल एटिकेट्स मैनर्स डेवलपमेंट होती है।
तो ये इसमें एक बात उभर के आता है कि प्ले इज अ वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट
Food of
एस्पेक्ट ऑफ
development.
फूड ऑफ
Food for-
डेवलपमेंट, आपने
yeah.
कहा, बहुत अच्छी बात कही। So we all need to, in fact, as professionals, we will be learning about this. It's part of our curriculum, and you know, it's part of the academic aspect of special education also. But it's very important to create more awareness about this need for children to play, so that they grow and develop to the best of their abilities. We'll be going in for a short break just now, and when we come back to you, Dr. Sharma will be talking about two other areas of this whole topic of growth and development. And you please, viewers are requested that you please call in with your questions as you go along. There must be certain ideas and certain issues that are occurring to you as you're listening to this program. Please feel free to call in and engage with our resource person and take up इसका पूरा फ़ायदा लीजिएगा। डॉक्टर शर्मा यहाँ आई हैं हमारे स्टूडियो में, उनसे आप ज़रूर प्रश्न पूछे। वन ऑफ द बेस्ट, वी आर making an effort to bring you the best experts in the country to deal with all these topics in your curriculum. ब्रेक के बाद मिलते हैं.